everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. So I'm hoping that you're going to join me. It's Saturday and I always jump on a Saturday and make a card. And today I'm going to play with the Botanical Layers stamp set. And I'm going to do some Emboss Resist. This is one of my favorite techniques because you can do some collage kind of backgrounds of cards. And just, I always love how they turn out when you use your embossing powder and then grab your blending brushes and see what happens. Sometimes you never know what it's going to look like until you get to the end of the card. So let's hope it turns out today. We'll see how it goes. So if you're in Canada, happy Victoria Day weekend. It's a long weekend here, and the sunshine is out there. It is beautiful, and I'm going to get out and ride my bike for the first time this year. So anyway, let's get started on making the card. I'll switch over to my desktop. If you're joining me, let me know where you're from. Let me know you can hear me. If you've come in through YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you get notified when I go live. I'm not able to do notifications through YouTube, at least that I know of. All right, so this is the Botanical Layers stamp set. It actually comes either separately or as a bundle with some great vellum, which has the botanical plants embossed, or not embossed, on them. So in black, circle, and then some clear ones. So it does come as a bundle, a little bit different bundle than Stampin' Up's done before. So it is a rubber stamp with 10 different stamps in it. And I'm going to use the plants, I guess, leaves, and this thank you for everything sentiment. All right, let's bring in. So I've gone ahead and cut out, I've got a piece of Evening Evergreen. So my colors are going to be Evening Evergreen, Parakeet Party, and Soft Succulent. I grabbed the ink. So this is 5.5 by 8.5, and we're going to score it at 4 1/4. And I will grab my bone folder. And as always, this is the side I scored on. This is the mountain or the raised lines. Fold into the mountain and give it a good burnish with your bone folder. Hey, Donna. Happy Victoria Day. Welcome. All right, so there's my card base. And then I've cut a piece. I kind of like this color combination. So this is the Parakeet Party. This is one of the new in colors. And I have cut this to be, let's see, 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So just a little bit bigger than I do my normal card base, because my layer that I'm going to emboss on, I've cut 4 inches by 5 1/4. So we're really just going to get a peekaboo of this Parakeet Party. Now I'm using the shimmery white. You probably can't see that, but this is the shimmery white cardstock, and that's what I'm going to be doing my stamping and embossing on. Okay, so I'm using Versamark. I have both white and clear embossing powder, so I'm going to do a bit of a combination of both. So if you, actually, where's mine? If you have an embossing buddy, grab your embossing buddy and just kind of go over your piece of cardstock just to try and get some of the static off of it and the oil. If you don't have a embossing buddy, you can make your own using, just get a pair of baby socks at the dollar store, put one inside the other, and then fill it with cornstarch, and then sew that up, and you've got an embossing buddy. Works really well. All right, so let's just do, let's see, how do I want my card to go? Let's do it. Let's do it portrait. So I'm going to just do, to start with, I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to be very random. At least that's my plan. So that's that one. Like I said, I'm going to use a combination of clear and white. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, so we shall see. So I'm using the 3 different leaves, and I'm going to leave this corner as much as I can because I want to stamp my sentiment. All right, let's use white to start with. So I always keep my embossing powder in a plastic container just because I make such a mess with it. And so I just find it much easier in here to control and not get it all over the place, although occasionally I get it all over the place even in here. All right. So, and I'm not sure you can see that, probably not, but I've got my 3 leaves and I've done that in white. And now I'm going to take, and I've got some of the smaller sentiments. Let's see. No, I'm gonna leave this hole here, and I'm gonna stamp my sentiments. So I've got some of the smaller stamps, and I'm just gonna put them kind of random, and I'm gonna emboss them as well. I'm not sure. These are just kind of, they almost look like centers of, trying to make sure I don't stamp over top of them. All right, it's probably good. Oops. And now I've got my clear embossing powder. Just trying to give it a bit of a different look. My spoon here. Oops. Lift this up. There we go. And I'm going over top, hoping that the clear won't go over top of the, I don't think it's going to go over top of the white. Just trying to make sure I've got them. Okay, there we go. Now I can see, and I'm sure you can't see on the camera. Oops, let's put that there. And I am going to, where did it go to? There it is. I can see that I have got a bit of a ring around some of my little tiny, the little stamps that I did. So I just take a paintbrush and just kind of go around and get those lines. It's kind of that shadow line that you would get if you press too hard, which is what I've done, is I've pressed a little hard when I was stamping it, and of course it gets ink on there, and the embossing powder has of course adhered to that. So I'm just taking my, it's just a regular paintbrush, and I'm just kind of running, I can kind of lift it off. Okay, now let's bring in my heat tool, which might be a little loud. So I'll hold it where I'm not going to burn my fingers. And hopefully that's not too loud. When you're embossing, you want to hold this down, hold it over the embossing powder until you can see it start to melt. It will go from this kind of dull matte finish to being shiny, and I can see it start. And once it starts, it goes very quickly. And you can just, then you can start moving the heat tool over the rest of the image with the embossing powder on it. One of the reasons I love this technique is because it really doesn't look like much until you actually start to color over top of it with the ink and the blending brushes. And that's kind of my favorite part of this technique. So the leaf images are going to show up a little bit more than the smaller images that I stamped, because those are done in clear embossing powder. So these white images are going to stand out a little bit more. There we go. All right, now I don't know if you can see. There you go. You can start to see some of the images that are embossed. Okay, so now I've got my stamping done except for a sentiment. And now I'm going to bring in like I said, I have 3 different colors. I've got the Evening Evergreen, I've got Soft Succulent, and I've got Parakeet Party. I'm not sure why. And I'm going to go light to dark. So I'm going to leave the Evening Evergreen until the end. And so I'm going to start, I'll move these off. I'm going to start with my Soft Succulent, and I'm just going to pick up some. Now I always kind of pat down on the lid of my stamp pad, just to try and take off some of that excess. And now I'm just going to start to add some color. And I'm being somewhat random, she says, and laying some color down. And you can kind of do this as long, until you get the depth of color that you want it to be. Okay, so let's go in, and now we're going to add some Parakeet Party into this, just to brighten it up a little bit. Just add some dimension to the overall color. And you can go over these, like if you find you get too much. If I did get too much of the Parakeet Party, I can start to go over top of it with the Soft Succulent. Now I want to be a little careful. I'm going to use a little bit more of the Soft Succulent down here. Isn't that pretty? All right, now I'm going to just come in, and now I've got my Evening Evergreen, and I do want to be very gentle with the Evening Evergreen, just because it's such a dark color. I don't want it to overwhelm my other colors. Yeah, oopsie, try not to. And I think I'm going to end up going back in over this with my Parakeet Party, because I want to bring in some of the brightness to it, because I've kind of lost that. Now let's put that here. Let's bring back some of this. Like I said, you can fuss with this as long as you want to get the depth of color. Okay, there. I think I've got it. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, a couple of tips when you're using your blending brushes, tapping off to try and take some of the the ink off. The other thing is, I always try and start off of my image so that you don't get the dark edges. If you don't start off your image, sometimes you can get a big splodge of darkness, and that's never looks good. Now I'm going to take, this is a baby wipe, this is dry. When you do Emboss Resist, you will get ink sitting on top of your embossing powder. And so I just take a dry baby wipe or a Kleenex and just wipe it so you get the rest of the ink off. Otherwise you end up with it all over your fingers, and that's the last thing that you want. Okay, I'm going to take my Evening Evergreen, and I've left my spot here. Now I always stamp and test out, because you never know if you get your label on your stamp straight. And so I'm using the stamp that says "Thank you for everything," and that turned out pretty well. And I realized that I didn't bring any embellishments over here, so I'm going to have to go and find some embellishments. But we will start. I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal, because it looks like I ran out of multi-purpose, the liquid glue, and didn't replace it. So again, this is just a peekaboo of the Parakeet Party behind my image. The other thing that you can do is cut your piece of basic white or shimmery white bigger than you need, and you can trim it down just to, if you find you get dark edges, you can make it bigger and then trim it down. There we go. Gosh, I really like this combination of evening evergreen and parakeet party. That's so pretty. Wasn't sure about that. All right, let me go and just grab quickly. Okay, I can't find what I'm looking for, but I found a couple. I was looking for the opal rounds in the new in colors, but I have, these are the decorative matte dots. I love these. So let's use some of the parakeet party ones and just add some embellishments to the front of my card. Excuse me. Gosh, a cough, tickle in my throat, and I was going to sneeze. All right, so now I've got a piece of the shimmery white cardstock, and this is cut 4 inches by 5 1/4. I think maybe I cut this bigger. Maybe I have to trim this down. I did. All right. So my tip about trimming down, I actually thought that that's what I was going to do. So we will trim this. This is going to be cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4, so it fits on the inside of my card base. And I'm going to take this stamp. This is the one that I've used here in the corner. I really like that one. So let's stamp that here in the corner in Evening Evergreen. So you see how cool this would be just to stamp these images as well. All right, and then we can adhere this on the inside of the card. First time I've played with this stamp set. I really like it. All right, there. So there's a pretty card. I think it's pretty. Using the Botanical Layers stamp set. And using Emboss Resist. I could have done some stamping and using some of those small images and used ink to just do some stamping and created more of a collage. But I kind of like the way it turned out with just the embossing powder and then the blending brushes. So lots of options when you're doing collages with cards, and whether you add extra ink and extra images on or not. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. I will be back tomorrow at 12 noon Pacific with another project. Hopefully you'll join me, and I hope that you'll be able to get out in the sunshine if it's sunny where you are. And if you're in Canada, I hope you have a wonderful Victoria Day weekend. It kind of feels like the start to the summer in Canada when it's the Victoria Day weekend. So, all right, everybody, thanks for joining me. Happy stamping. Bye.